I firmly believe that one of the best things that I've done for myself as a woman is learned how to master the art of detachment. I always say it's one of my philosophies that the key difference between a grown woman versus a girl is the ability to master and control your emotions. And I think maybe sometimes people get mistaken, and I've even gotten this criticism at times, mostly from people who are trying to trigger you by, manipulating your emotions. They'll call you robotic or unemotional or too detached. And no, that is not to me what the art of detachment means. It absolutely does not mean to not be able to feel and express and be in tune with your feelings and your emotions. Rather, I think that detaching is learning to not identify with those feelings, right? Because feelings are fleeting, you feel one way in one specific moment, and then the next you might feel something totally different. They come and they go, and so it's important to not identify with emotions, and also it's important not to always act upon them or allow your emotions in any given moment to dictate your decisions, your behavior. Because you have to understand, emotions are essentially, they're just messages. So when you take the time to actually detach from any given emotion and really analyze and ask yourself, what is this feeling trying to communicate to me about myself, my triggers, my trauma, the state of my subconscious mind? That is the point that you want to get to in your relationship with your emotions. And also, like I mentioned, when you do become this type of woman, there are going to be immature people who have not learned to master their own emotions, who they might be bothered that it isn't easy to get an emotional reaction out of you, and they're going to try to trigger you. And I think that as a part of learning the art of detachment, sometimes you have to be able to discern when people are simply projecting, and you have to be able to identify when people's behaviors toward you or their words toward you actually have nothing to do with you. When another person hasn't mastered their emotions, they typically just project because they're not in tune with their own subconscious, their own feelings. And so they project the parts of themselves that they don't want to face. And so, it's very easy when someone says something to you that you don't like or that you perceive as, them trying to disrespect you or whatever. It's so easy to give in and give a reaction and give that person your emotional energy. And that's typically what they want. But if you can bring yourself to the place of understanding that this person's behavior actually has nothing to do with me, this is a person who is projecting and externalizing their own internal battle, and so I can just ignore it. I can just ignore it. I can choose not to react. I can let it bounce right off of me and right back to them. And so something else that I touched on in one of my previous videos that I said that I was going to come back to was also like learning how to let go of people, letting go of relationships, not even just relationships, people, places, things. I feel like that also falls into mastering the art of detachment, is knowing when to remove yourself, knowing when it's time to let things go, let relationships go, which I know can be very difficult. And again, it's not to become this heartless, like cold, calloused, emotionless woman, but it is to understand that essentially at the end of the day, you are the only constant in your life. And when a situation, a relationship gets to the point where it is hindering your ability to evolve, to grow, to prosper, to be in a peak state of mental health, it is always time to evaluate when it's time to remove yourself from said circumstance. I think that, like I mentioned in my other video, the more that you evolve in your journey of self-love and self-obsession, is the easier that act of detachment is going to become for you, because your self-love and self-respect is not going to allow you to stay in any situation or circumstance, place, relationship where you are not being respected, you're not being honored, and you're being treated less than what you would treat yourself. That's the main key. You will not allow anyone to treat you less than how you treat yourself. And sometimes the most grown woman thing to do is let your final act of love be walking away. Your amount of self-love should always be the greatest. No longer giving people reactions. You're no longer sending people paragraphs. You're no longer, arguing back and forth and getting closure and letting people, gaslight you and manipulate you into, what you already know. You don't need anyone to tell you what you already know. Like, you have discernment, you have wisdom, you know what the situation is, you know what's been done to you. And sometimes it just needs to be as simple as walking away, clean slate. That's it. That is how to be a grown, self-loving, self-respecting woman, in my opinion.